Part 1. The Swarm. Descends Captain Daehyun stood on the observation deck of Defense Platform 7, watching the stars above New Jeju. The planet below glowed with the lights of 8 million people living their peaceful lives. Farms stretched across the continents like green blankets. Rivers sparkled in the sunlight. Children played in the parks of the capital city. Everything was normal. Everything was safe. Then the sensors screamed. Daehyun ran to the main console. His hands flew across the controls as he tried to understand what he was seeing. The screen showed something impossible. Thousands of objects were dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Then tens of thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. "Get me a visual," Daehyun ordered. His voice was calm, but his heart was pounding. The main screen flickered to life. What Daehyun saw made his blood run cold. Ships filled the darkness of space like a swarm of insects. They were organic, pulsing things that looked more alive than mechanical. Each one was the size of a building. There were so many that they blocked out the stars. "Communications. Send an emergency signal to Earth," Daehyun said. "Tell them we are under attack by unknown forces. Send everything we have on these ships." Down on the planet, Dr. Minji was working in her research laboratory. She studied alien life forms and had seen many strange creatures in her career. When the alarm sounded, she looked up from her microscope. The emergency broadcast was playing on every screen in the facility. "All personnel to evacuation stations. This is not a drill. Unknown hostile forces approaching the planet." Minji ran to her computer and started backing up her research. Years of work had to be saved. She plugged in drive after drive, copying everything as fast as she could. Through the window, she could see people running in the streets. Ships were lifting off from the spaceport, climbing toward the sky. In the farming district, Young-soo was working in his fields when he heard the sirens. His wife Yoonji came running from their house, fear on her face. "We need to go now," she said. "The evacuation centers are opening." Young-soo looked at the sky. He could see nothing wrong yet. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. But he trusted his wife. They ran to their vehicle and joined the stream of people heading toward the city. Back in space, Daehyun watched as the alien swarm came closer. His weapons were charging, ready to fire. The other defense platforms were doing the same. They had enough firepower to destroy a fleet. But this was not a fleet. This was something else entirely. "Count them," Daehyun said to his tactical officer. The officer's face went pale. "Sir, the computer has counted over 2 million ships and it's still counting. They're not stopping." Daehyun gripped his command chair. 2 million ships against 12 defense platforms. The math was simple and terrible. "All platforms, open fire," he commanded. The defense platforms unleashed everything they had. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams lanced out like spears of light. Nuclear explosions blossomed in the darkness. For a moment, Daehyun felt hope. The alien ships were dying by the hundreds, but hundreds meant nothing when there were millions. The alien swarm kept coming. They didn't dodge. They didn't retreat. They just kept coming forward, accepting their losses like they meant nothing. For every ship that died, 10 more took its place. The first platform fell within an hour. The aliens swarmed over it like ants on sugar. Daehyun watched on his screens as Platform 3 went dark. Then Platform 9. Then Platform 2. "Sir, they're breaking through," his weapons officer reported. "We can't stop them all." Daehyun knew what he had to do. "Get the evacuation ships out now. We'll hold them as long as we can." Down on New Jeju, the evacuation was chaos. Millions of people were trying to get to the spaceports. Not enough ships. Not enough time. Young-soo and Yoonji had made it to the evacuation center, but the lines were enormous. People were crying. Children were screaming. "We're not going to make it," Young-soo said, looking at the crowds. "We have to try," Yoonji said, holding his hand tight. Above them, the sky began to darken. At first, people thought it was a storm. Then they realized the truth. The alien ships were entering the atmosphere. There were so many that they blocked out the sun. The temperature dropped as the world fell into shadow. Dr. Minji was still in her lab when the first ships landed. She had sent her research to Earth, but she wanted to see these creatures for herself. Through her window, she watched as hatches opened on the alien vessels. Things poured out. They were insectoid, with hard shells and too many legs. Each one was the size of a human, but there were thousands coming from every ship. Minji activated her recording equipment. If she was going to die, at least her observations would survive. She spoke into the microphone, describing everything she saw. The way they moved together like one organism, the way they spread across the land with terrible efficiency, the way they killed everything in their path. They're not individuals, she said into the recorder. They're all connected, a hive mind, millions of bodies, one consciousness. This is the Vexthorian Collective. We found references to them in old council archives. Species that faced them either fled or died. No one has ever won against them. The door to her lab exploded inward. Minji kept recording as the creatures came for her. At the evacuation center, chaos had turned to horror. The alien creatures were in the streets. People were running in every direction. Young-Soo saw an evacuation ship lifting off. It was overloaded with people hanging from the landing gear. "Come on," he yelled to Yoonji, pulling her toward another ship that was still loading. They were 50 meters away when the aliens reached them. Young-Soo turned to fight, trying to buy time. He saw Yoonji running toward the ship. He saw the aliens following. He saw the moment when they caught up to her. "No," he screamed, but his scream changed nothing. Yoonji fell. The aliens swarmed over her. Young-Soo tried to reach her, but hands grabbed him from behind. Other evacuees were pulling him toward the ship. "She's gone," someone said. "We have to go now." Young-Soo fought against them, but there were too many. They dragged him aboard the ship. As it lifted off, he watched through the window as his wife's body disappeared beneath the swarm. He pressed his hand against the glass and made a promise to her memory. The evacuation ships climbed toward space. Only 47 ships made it out. Each one carried about 4,000 people. 200,000 survivors from a population of 8 million. Captain Daehyun's platform was the last to fall. He transmitted one final message to Earth before the aliens broke through his hull. "This is Captain Daehyun of New Jeju Defense. The colony has fallen. 7.8 million confirmed dead. The enemy numbers in the millions, possibly billions. They cannot be stopped by conventional means. Tell command that we need everything. Tell them to remember New Jeju. Tell them to make these bastards pay." The transmission ended. Platform 7 went dark. New Jeju was gone. On Earth, Admiral Hyunwoo received the messages. He watched the recordings. He read the reports. He looked at the numbers. 7.8 million people dead in 36 hours. He called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. When they were all assembled, he spoke just 4 words: prepare for total war. 3 months had passed since New Jeju fell. The Vexithorian swarm had not stopped. They consumed 3 more human colonies with the same terrible efficiency. Each time the story was the same. Millions of alien ships would arrive. Human defenses would kill thousands of them, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. But it never mattered. The swarm always had more. Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the war room on Earth, staring at the holographic display of human space. Red markers showed where colonies had fallen. Yellow markers showed where the Vexthorians were attacking now. "There were too many yellow markers. How many have we killed?" Hyunwoo asked. General Soo-hyun checked her datapad. "Our best estimate is 40 billion Vexthorian organisms eliminated. But they keep coming. Intelligence suggests their total population is in the trillions." Hyunwoo said nothing for a long moment. 40 billion dead, and the enemy hadn't even slowed down. What kind of species could absorb losses like that and not care? A young analyst named Jiwon raised her hand. She was new to the war room, fresh from the academy. Most officers would have been too intimidated to speak up in front of the admiral. But Jiwon had something important to say. "Sir, I've been studying the battle recordings from all 4 colonies," she said. "The Vexthorians don't adapt. They use the same tactics every time. They just throw more bodies at the problem until the problem goes away." Hyunwoo looked at her with interest. "Explain." Jiwon brought up video from the battles. "Watch here. At New Jeju, they flew in straight lines. We killed millions. At Harmony Station, they flew in straight lines again. Same result. At New Berlin, same thing. They never changed their approach. They just send more ships until we run out of ammunition or get overwhelmed. General Suhyun frowned. That doesn't make sense. Any intelligent species would learn from their losses. Unless losses don't matter to them, Jiwon said. What if they have so many that they don't need to be smart? What if their entire strategy is just to have more bodies than we have bullets? Hyunwoo walked closer to the display. He studied the battle patterns. The young analyst was right. The Vexthorians fought like a flood, not like an army. They didn't need tactics when they had numbers. Get me a connection to the Galactic Council, Hyunwoo ordered. An hour later, Hyunwoo was speaking to representatives from a dozen alien species. They appeared as holograms around the room. Some looked like reptiles. Some looked like birds. Some looked like nothing from Earth at all. They all had the same expression on their faces. Pity. The council speaker, an old alien with 6 arms, spoke first. Admiral Hyunwoo, the council has reviewed your situation. We offer our deepest sympathies for your losses. I don't want sympathy, Hyunwoo said. I want military support. The Vexthorians are a threat to the entire galaxy. The speaker's face showed sadness. The council cannot intervene. The Vexthorian collective has never attacked council space. They only target independent species. To declare war on them would be to risk billions of our own citizens. They've killed over 20 million humans, Hyunwoo said, his voice rising. How many more need to die before you act? Another council member spoke up. This one looked like a floating jellyfish. Admiral, you must understand. The Vexthorians number in the trillions. Our intelligence estimates at least 4 trillion combat-capable organisms. No military in the galaxy can defeat those numbers. Our advice is to negotiate a surrender. Perhaps you can preserve some of your population. Hyunwoo felt rage building in his chest. You want us to surrender? To give up and let them consume humanity? The speaker raised his hands in a calming gesture. We understand your anger. But mathematics cannot be denied. 4 trillion Vexthorians against 89 billion humans. The numbers speak for themselves. Continued resistance will only lead to extinction. Hyunwoo looked at each council member in turn. He saw no allies there. Only cowards hiding behind their borders. Thank you for your time, Hyunwoo said coldly. Humanity will handle this ourselves. He cut the connection. The holograms vanished. Hyunwoo turned to his officers. They think we should surrender because of numbers. Let's show them what we think of their numbers. Over the next month, Hyunwoo implemented a new strategy. He ordered all outer colonies evacuated. Every human settlement beyond the Middle Territories was abandoned. Billions of people were relocated to more defensible worlds. The Vexthorians rushed in to occupy the empty colonies thinking they were winning. They were wrong. Hyunwoo wasn't retreating. He was consolidating. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon was being pulled back to form a defensive line. And while the military prepared, General Suhyun's intelligence division was doing something unprecedented. They were counting. Every sensor, every drone, every spy satellite was focused on the Vexthorian swarm. Suhyun's teams worked day and night, tracking every ship, every creature, every movement. They built databases. They created models. They mapped the entire Vexthorian military down to the smallest detail. Jiwon was promoted to captain and given command of the analysis team. She spent weeks staring at screens, counting aliens. Her team identified patterns. They tracked breeding cycles. They estimated production rates. They calculated supply lines. We can count them, Jiwon reported to Hyunwoo. It will take time, but we can map their entire force. Do it, Hyunwoo ordered. I want to know exactly how many we need to kill. Among the refugees from New Jeju was Youngsu. He had survived the evacuation, but part of him had died with his wife. For weeks he simply existed. He ate without tasting. He slept without dreaming. He moved through the refugee camps like a ghost. Then one day he saw a recruitment poster. Join the defense forces. Make them pay. Something ignited in Youngsu's chest. A purpose. A reason to keep living. He walked to the recruitment center and signed up that same day. The training was brutal. Youngsu didn't care. When other recruits complained about the long hours, Youngsu asked for more. When others struggled with the physical tests, Youngsu passed them easily. All he could think about was his wife's face. All he wanted was revenge, his instructors noticed. One of them pulled him aside after a particularly intense combat drill. Soldier, you're training like you want to die, the instructor said. No, sir, Youngsu replied. I'm training like I want to kill. The instructor studied him for a moment, then nodded. Good, we need more like you. Back in the war room, the counting was almost complete. Soo-hyun presented the final numbers to Admiral Hyunwoo. 4.2 trillion Vexithorian organisms, she said. That's every ship, every soldier, every creature we can detect. Their main hive worlds are here, here, and here. She pointed to 3 star systems deep in what used to be the disputed border zone. Hyunwoo studied the numbers. 4.2 trillion. It was hard to even imagine that many living things. The human brain wasn't built to understand numbers that large. What are our assets? He asked. 89 billion humans. Of those, 12 billion are combat-ready military personnel. We have 40,000 warships, 200,000 support vessels, and defensive installations on every core world. The other officers in the room looked grim. The numbers were terrible. For every human, there were 47 Vexithorians. Even if every human killed 100 aliens, they would still lose. But Hyunwoo smiled. We have everything we need, he said. General Soo-hyun looked at him in confusion. Sir, the numbers are perfect, Hyunwoo interrupted. They think numbers will win this war. They're wrong. We're going to show them what happens when humanity gets angry. He turned to address all the officers. The Vexithorians have never faced real resistance. They've crushed species that ran away or froze in fear. But we're not going to run. We're not going to freeze. We're going to adapt. Hyunwoo pulled up projections on the main display. They fight like a flood. So we'll build dams. They overwhelm with numbers. So we'll make every shot count for 1,000. They have 4 trillion bodies. We'll kill every single one, Captain Ji-won spoke up. Sir, that would require killing ratios no military has ever achieved. Then we'll be the first, Hyunwoo said. Get me our best weapons designers. Get me our best tactical minds. Get me everyone who knows how to kill efficiently. We're going to turn this military into the most lethal force in galactic history. He looked at the star map one more time. The Vexithorians are about to learn something important. Humans don't fight with numbers. We fight with rage. Later that day, Hyunwoo sent a message to the Galactic Council. It was brief. To the Council, you advised surrender. We decline. You said the numbers speak for themselves. We agree. The Vexithorians have 4.2 trillion organisms. We have counted every one of them. Now we're going to kill every one of them. Humanity out. The message spread throughout the galaxy. Some species thought humanity had gone insane. Some thought it was a bluff. The Vexithorian collective heard the message too. Their hive mind processed it, and for the first time in their long history, they felt something new. Uncertainty. 18 months into the war, everything had changed. The Vexithorians had taken 14 human colonies. That was the bad news. The good news was that humanity hadn't lost a single battle in the last 6 months. In a military research facility on Mars, Dr. Taehyun was solving a problem. The problem was simple. How do you kill 1 million enemies with one weapon? Traditional explosives could only do so much. Nuclear weapons were powerful but expensive. Energy weapons burned through power too quickly. Humanity needed something new. Taehyun studied the data that Dr. Minji had sent from New Jeju before she died. She had discovered something crucial. The Vexithorians were all connected through a neural frequency. Their hive mind used a specific wavelength to coordinate their actions. Every alien was like a radio, constantly receiving and sending signals. What if you could jam that signal? Or better yet, what if you could weaponize it? Taehyun worked for months. He tested hundreds of frequencies. He built prototype after prototype. Most failed. Some worked a little. Then one day he found it, the exact frequency that would overload the Vexithorian neural network. He built a missile around this discovery. It was called a cascade munition. When it detonated, it didn't create an explosion. Instead, it sent out a wave of neural disruption. Any Vexithorian within 50 kilometers would have its connection to the hive mind severed. Without the hive mind telling them what to do, they became confused. They stopped fighting. They just stood there, easy targets. The first test killed 3 million Vexithorians with one missile. Admiral Hyunwoo authorized immediate mass production. Within 3 months, every human ship carried cascade munitions. The kill ratios started to shift dramatically. Meanwhile, Captain Ji-won had been developing new tactical doctrines. She studied how the Vexithorians attacked. They always swarmed. They always charged forward. They never retreated. This predictability was their weakness. Ji-won created what she called the Anvil Doctrine. It was simple. Let the enemy swarm. Let them think they're winning. Pull your forces back, making them chase you. Then when they're fully committed, when every single enemy is inside your kill zone, you spring the trap. The Battle of Titan's Gate proved the doctrine worked. 40 million Vexithorians attacked a human fleet of just 200,000. The human ships retreated, pulling the swarm deeper into the gravity well of Saturn's moon. The Vexithorians followed eagerly, thinking they had the humans trapped. Then G1 gave the order, "Anvil now." Hidden weapons platforms activated, cascade munitions launched by the hundreds. The neural disruption waves crashed over the Vexithorian swarm like a tsunami. Millions fell silent instantly. Then the conventional weapons opened fire. Railguns, missiles, energy beams. The confused aliens died by the millions. When the battle ended 6 hours later, all 40 million Vexithorians were dead. Human casualties were less than 3,000. The kill ratio was over 13,000 to 1. News of the battle spread through humanity like wildfire. People celebrated in the streets. The Vexithorians could be beaten. Their numbers didn't matter anymore. But Admiral Hyunwoo knew the war was far from over. 40 million dead was a good start. But there were still over 4 trillion to go. Young-soo had completed his training and was assigned to a special unit called the Widowmakers. They specialized in the most dangerous missions. Boarding actions. These were operations where human soldiers would actually board Vexithorian ships while in space. The goal was to find and kill Queen Nodes. These were special Vexithorians that acted as communication hubs for the hive mind. Kill a Queen Node, and thousands of regular Vexithorians would become disoriented. Each Queen Node was heavily defended, but the payoff was worth the risk. Young-soo volunteered for every boarding mission. His skill with weapons was exceptional. His lack of fear was legendary. Other soldiers were terrified of going inside alien ships. Young-soo seemed to enjoy it. "Why do you do this?" One of his squad mates asked him after a particularly brutal mission. "You fight like you're trying to die." Young-soo cleaned the alien blood off his blade. "I'm not trying to die. I'm trying to make them die. All of them." His squad mate didn't ask again. The Widowmakers became the most effective unit in the human military. In 1 month, they killed 47 Queen Nodes. Each death disrupted millions of Vexithorians. Young-soo personally accounted for 12 of those kills. He was promoted to lieutenant, then to captain, then to colonel. He didn't care about rank. He only cared about the body count. The Vexithorians finally realized something was wrong. Their strategy of overwhelming force wasn't working anymore. For the first time in their history, they tried to adapt. They created new ship designs. They changed their attack patterns. They even attempted basic tactics. It was too late. Humanity's intelligence network had grown sophisticated. Every Vexithorian position was mapped. Every fleet movement was tracked. General Soo-hyun's teams knew where the aliens were before the aliens knew where they were going. "They're trying to think like us," Soo-hyun reported to Hyunwoo. "But they've spent millions of years not thinking. They can't just start now." Hyunwoo studied the latest reports. Human forces were winning every engagement. The kill ratios were astronomical. On average, humanity killed 2,000 Vexithorians for every human lost. "How many have we eliminated?" Hyunwoo asked. 1.8 trillion confirmed kills, Soo-hyun said. "That's almost half their total population." Around the war room, officers celebrated. They had killed trillions. The end was in sight. But Hyunwoo didn't celebrate. He looked at the numbers coldly. "That means 2.4 trillion are still alive," he said. "Keep killing." The war had costs. 840 million military casualties. 18 million civilian deaths. Entire fleets destroyed. Dozens of ships lost every day. But humanity kept fighting. Kept adapting. Kept improving. Dr. Taehyun created new weapons every month. Cascade munitions were just the beginning. He developed plasma torpedoes that could burn through alien armor like paper. He created AI-guided missiles that never missed. He built orbital cannons that could fire through planets. Captain Ji-won, now promoted to commander, developed dozens of tactical doctrines. The anvil for defensive battles, the hammer for offensives, the scalpel for precision strikes, the apocalypse for when mercy wasn't an option. Human shipyards worked around the clock. New vessels rolled out every day. Bigger ships, faster ships, deadlier ships. Each generation of warship was designed to kill more efficiently than the last. The galaxy watched in amazement. The Galactic Council had predicted human extinction. Instead, they were witnessing the systematic destruction of the most numerous species in known space. Some council members sent private messages to Hyunwoo. Perhaps we were too hasty in our judgment, they said. Perhaps the council could offer assistance. Hyunwoo rejected every offer. You abandoned us when we needed help. We'll finish this ourselves. The Vexithorians tried everything. They threw bigger swarms at human defenses. They attacked supply lines. They even attempted to negotiate, sending strange broadcasts in broken human languages. The broadcast said things like, "Stop fighting. Too much death. Make peace. Stop killing." Hyunwoo received these broadcasts in the war room. His officers looked at him, waiting for orders. Should they respond? Should they consider peace? Hyunwoo thought about New Jeju, about 7.8 million people dead in 36 hours, about farmers and children and scientists killed without warning or mercy. He thought about Youngsu's wife, about all the families destroyed, about all the homes burned. Send a response, Hyunwoo ordered. One word, no. The war continued. Colonel Youngsu led the Widowmakers on a mission to reclaim New Jeju. The planet had been a Vexithorian stronghold for 2 years. Billions of aliens swarmed across the surface. Human command said it couldn't be retaken. It would require too many resources. Youngsu volunteered anyway. He gathered volunteers from across the military. 10,000 soldiers who had lost someone on New Jeju. 10,000 people with the same rage in their hearts. They called themselves the Vengeance Battalion. The battle for New Jeju lasted 14 days. It was brutal. The planet was bombed from orbit until the surface glowed red. Then the Vengeance Battalion landed. They fought street by street, building by building. They used flamethrowers and explosives and blades. They took no prisoners. They gave no mercy. On the 14th day, Colonel Youngsu stood in what used to be his hometown. Every building was rubble. Every street was crater. But every Vexithorian was dead. He walked to where his farm had been. Nothing remained except scorched earth. He knelt down and dug a small hole with his hands. From his pocket he pulled out a picture of his wife. He buried it in the ground and placed a stone on top. "I'm sorry it took so long," he whispered. "But they all paid. Every single one on this world paid for what they did to you." He stood up and activated his communicator. "Command, this is Youngsu. New Jeju is ours. The planet is secure." Across human space, news of New Jeju's liberation spread like wildfire. It was the first colony retaken, proof that what was lost could be reclaimed. Admiral Hyunwoo watched the reports from Earth. He saw the footage of Youngsu planting that stone. He understood what it meant. This wasn't just war anymore. This was vengeance, pure and simple. He looked at his fleet commanders. 2 years had passed since New Jeju fell. The war had reached a critical moment. The Vexithorians controlled 31 former human colonies. But they had stopped advancing, not because they wanted to stop, because they couldn't advance anymore. Every time they tried to push forward, human fleets destroyed them. Every time they gathered for an attack, human intelligence knew about it before they launched. The vast swarms that once seemed unstoppable now died in droves before they could reach their targets. Grand Admiral Hyunwoo stood in front of a massive holographic display. He had been promoted again after his strategies proved devastatingly effective. Now he commanded thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. The display showed every human fleet, every enemy position, every supply line. It was the most complete picture of the war ever assembled. "Status report," he said. Commander Ji-won stepped forward. She was now the director of strategic planning. Her tactical doctrines were taught at every military academy. Her face was on recruitment posters across human space. "Sir, we have eliminated 1.8 trillion Vexithorian organisms," she said. "Current estimates put their remaining population at 2.4 trillion. Our casualties stand at 840 million military and 18 million civilian." Hyunwoo did the math in his head. "That's a kill ratio of over 2,000 to 1. "Yes, sir." "It's unprecedented in galactic military history. No force has ever achieved numbers like this." Around the war room, officers nodded with satisfaction. 2,000 aliens dead for every human lost. The numbers were staggering. But Hyunwoo wasn't satisfied. 2.4 trillion Vexithorians were still alive. That was 2.4 trillion too many. "What's the status of Operation Cleansing Tide?" he asked. Ji-won brought up new displays. They showed 31 different battle plans, one for each occupied colony. All fleets are in position. All supply lines are secured. We're ready to launch simultaneous assaults on every occupied world. How long will it take? 30 days of continuous combat. Maybe less if the enemy breaks faster than expected. Hyunwoo studied each battle plan. They were perfect. Overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. The Vex Thorians wouldn't know what hit them. Give the order, he said. Operation Cleansing Tide begins at dawn. On Earth, Chancellor Minho addressed the entire human population. He was the civilian leader, responsible for keeping morale high and production running. For 2 years, he had kept humanity focused on the war effort. Now he stood before cameras that broadcast to 89 billion people across dozens of worlds. My fellow humans, he began. For 2 years, we have fought the Vexthorian Collective. They came to our worlds without warning. They killed our families without mercy. They thought their numbers would crush us. They were wrong. He paused, letting his words sink in. Tomorrow, we launch the largest military operation in human history. 31 simultaneous assaults to reclaim what was stolen from us. This is not just about territory. This is about justice. They came for our families. Now we will take everything from them. The broadcast ended with footage of human fleets assembling, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all preparing for battle. In the Widowmaker Battalion, General Young-soo briefed his troops. He had been promoted again after liberating New Jeju. Now he commanded 10,000 of humanity's most elite soldiers. They had fought in every major battle. They had boarded hundreds of alien ships. They had killed millions of Vexithorians personally. Listen up, Young-soo said. Tomorrow we hit 31 targets at once. The Vex will be confused. They'll be scattered. That's when we're most dangerous. Each kill team knows their target. Queen nodes, communication hubs, breeding chambers. We're not just taking these colonies back. We're making sure the Vex can never use them again. His soldiers checked their weapons. They were quiet, focused. They had all lost someone to the Vex. They all had their own personal reasons for being here. One young soldier raised his hand. Sir, what if they try to surrender? Young-soo's face was stone. Then we keep killing them. The operation launched at dawn across 31 different star systems. It was coordinated with perfect precision. Every fleet jumped into position simultaneously. Every opening strike hit at the exact same moment. The Vexithorians had never faced anything like it. At Colony 7, human ships dropped from faster-than-light travel right on top of the Vexithorian defenders. Cascade munitions launched by the thousands. 50 million aliens went silent in the first minute. Then the conventional weapons opened fire. By the end of the first day, the colony was half cleared. At Colony 19, the Widowmakers boarded the main Vex hive ship. They fought through corridors filled with aliens. Young-soo led from the front, his blade moving faster than the eye could follow. He found the Queen node in the ship's center. It was huge, the size of a small building, pulsing with neural energy. Burn it, he ordered. His soldiers used plasma torches. The Queen node screamed. It wasn't a sound anyone could hear. It was a psychic shriek that every Vexithorian on the planet felt. When it died, 5 million aliens suddenly had no direction. They stood motionless. Easy targets. At Colony 24, Dr. Taehyun's latest weapon was tested. It was called a stellar disruptor. It destabilized the local star for exactly 17 seconds. In those 17 seconds, the star's radiation output increased by 3,000%. Every Vexithorian ship in the system was cooked. Their organic hulls couldn't handle the heat. 8 billion aliens died in 17 seconds. The star returned to normal. The colony was clear. The battles raged for 30 days. Human forces were relentless. They gave no quarter. They took no breaks. When soldiers got tired, fresh troops rotated in. When ships needed repairs, new ships took their place. The machine of war that humanity had built ran without stopping. The Vexthorians tried to coordinate a response, but their hive mind was being disrupted constantly. Queen nodes died by the hundreds. Communication channels were jammed. For a species that had always fought as one unified organism, being divided was worse than death. They tried to retreat. Human fleets cut off escape routes. They tried to dig in. Human orbital bombardments destroyed their fortifications. They tried to swarm. Cascade munitions shattered their coordination. Nothing worked. For the first time in their ancient history, the Vexithorians were losing. On day 31, the last colony was liberated. Every occupied human world was back under human control. The cost had been significant. 2 million human soldiers dead, hundreds of ships destroyed. But they had won. All 31 colonies, all at once. More importantly, 800 billion Vexithorians had died in 1 month. General Youngsu stood on the surface of New Jeju for the second time. This time he wasn't here to fight. He was here to remember. A memorial was being built where the capital city had stood. Names of the dead were being carved into stone. 7.8 million names. His wife's name was there too. He placed his hand on the stone and made a promise. Not to her this time, to himself. I won't stop until every last one of them is dead. Back on Earth, Grand Admiral Hyunwoo received reports from all 31 battles. Complete victory. The casualty ratios remained favorable. 2,000 Vexithorians killed for every human lost. He did the math again. Total Vexithorian losses now stood at 2.6 trillion. That left only 1.6 trillion still alive. But something else had happened during the month of Operation Cleansing Tide. For the first time since the war began, the Vexithorians had sent a message. Not a broadcast, not a threat, a message of fear. It came through every communication channel simultaneously. The translation was rough because the Vex hive mind didn't really understand human language. But the meaning was clear. Stop. Too much death. Make peace. We leave your space. Never return. Please stop killing. Hyunwoo read the message 3 times. Around him, officers waited for his response. Some looked hopeful. The enemy wanted peace. Maybe the war could end. Maybe they could stop the killing. Hyunwoo thought about it for exactly 5 seconds. Then he sent a reply. 1 word, like before. No, the officers stared at him. One brave captain spoke up. Sir, they're offering to leave. We could end this now. Hyunwoo turned to face him. His eyes were cold. They killed 7.8 million people on New Jeju without asking for peace. They consumed 3 more colonies without offering to leave. They didn't give us a choice then. I'm not giving them one now. He turned back to the display showing Vexithorian territory. They wanted a war of extermination. That's what they'll get, theirs. Commander Ji-won stepped forward. Sir, if we're not accepting their surrender, what's the next phase? Hyunwoo smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who had cornered its prey. We've retaken our territory. Now we take theirs. Prepare the fleets for invasion. We're going to the Vex home systems. The officers in the war room understood what he was saying. They weren't just fighting to defend anymore. They were going to hunt down every last Vexithorian. They were going to finish what the aliens had started. Plot a course, Hyunwoo ordered. Find their homeworlds. Every nest. Every breeding ground. Every last place they hide. We're going to visit all of them. General Su-yun brought up intelligence data. We've identified 3 main hive worlds. Each one has populations in the hundreds of billions. They're heavily defended. 3 years had passed since New Jeju fell. The war had transformed humanity. They had reclaimed every lost colony. They had pushed the Vexithorians back to their home systems. And now, human fleets surrounded those systems like a noose tightening around a throat. Grand Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the warship Retribution. Through the windows he could see 7 planets orbiting a yellow star. These were the Vexithorian homeworlds. Every single one was covered in hive structures. Every single one housed hundreds of billions of aliens. Status report, Hyunwoo said. Commander Ji-won checked her displays. All fleets in position. 5,000 warships, 2 million support craft, 15 million soldiers ready for ground operations. The Vex have approximately 1.4 trillion organisms remaining, mostly concentrated on these 7 worlds. Hyunwoo nodded. 1.4 trillion down from 4.2 trillion. Humanity had already killed more than half the Vexithorian species, but that wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Begin the operation, he ordered. Before the assault could begin, the Galactic Council intervened. Dozens of ships appeared at the edge of the system. Not warships, diplomatic vessels. The Council speaker's face appeared on every screen. Grand Admiral Hyunwoo, the Council formally demands you stop this operation. What you're planning is genocide. It violates every galactic law. You must accept the Vexithorian surrender. Hyunwoo didn't even look at the screen. We left the Council. Your laws don't apply to us. Please, the speaker begged. We understand your anger. But you've already won. The Vex are broken. They're offering complete surrender. You can have reparations, territory, anything you want. Just don't do this. Now Hyunwoo looked at the screen. His eyes were hard. Where was this concern when they killed my people? Where were you when New Jeju burned? The speaker's face showed shame. We failed you then. But that doesn't make this right. Please show mercy. No, Hyunwoo said. They chose extinction when they came to our worlds. Now they get what they chose. He cut the transmission. The council ships remained at the edge of the system, watching helplessly. On one of the council ships, alien observers recorded everything. They had studied the war closely. They had analyzed human tactics. What they saw amazed and terrified them. Their efficiency is unprecedented, one observer said. They've killed 2,000 enemies for every one of their own losses. No species in galactic history has achieved numbers like that. It's more than efficiency, another said. It's rage. Controlled rage. They're not fighting emotionally. They're using their anger as fuel for perfect military precision. That's what makes them so dangerous. Below them, the assault on the Vex homeworlds began. Marshal Youngsu led the Widowmakers to the surface of Vex Prime, the largest homeworld. His force had grown to 50,000 soldiers, all elite, all veterans, all carrying the same cold rage. The landing was unopposed at first. The Vex were trying something new. They had built underground bunkers. They were hiding, hoping to survive long enough for the Council to stop the humans. They hoped wrong. Youngsu's forces brought drilling equipment, plasma torches, seismic charges. They found every bunker, every tunnel, every hiding place. Then they pumped them full of fire. On the second day, Youngsu found something that made him stop. It was a Vex breeding chamber. Inside were thousands of eggs, young Vex that hadn't hatched yet. His soldiers looked at him, waiting for orders. Burn it, he said without hesitation. One young soldier hesitated. Sir, they're not even born yet. Youngsu turned to him. They killed human children. Human babies. They didn't care about age or innocence. Neither do we. Burn it, the eggs burned. The war continued. In space, Dr. Taehyun unleashed his ultimate weapon. He had been working on it for a year. It was called a Starbreaker. It could destabilize a sun permanently. Turn it into a weapon that would sterilize every planet in the system. Sir, requesting permission to use the Starbreaker on Vex Secondary, Taehyun reported. Hyunwoo considered. That system had 4 planets, all inhabited, all packed with Vex. Using the Starbreaker would kill every living thing in the system, roughly 300 billion Vex. Denied, Hyunwoo said. We kill them personally, not with their own star. I want them to see us coming. Taehyun understood. This wasn't just about efficiency anymore. It was about making the Vex face their death. The ground war was brutal. The Vex fought desperately. They threw everything they had at the human soldiers. For every meter of ground, thousands of aliens died. But they kept fighting. They had nowhere left to run. On day 43, the Vex Overmind tried to communicate directly. It was the central intelligence that controlled all Vexithorians. It had never spoken to another species before. Its voice came through every communication channel. Humans. We surrender completely, unconditionally, take everything. Enslave us. Just let us live, please. The message played in the war room. Officers looked uncomfortable. Even in war, there were rules. Accepting surrender was one of them. Hyunwoo listened to the entire message. Then he sent a reply. No, you had your chance for mercy. You wasted it on New Jeju. The Overmind tried again. We were wrong. We didn't understand. You are stronger than us. We accept this. We will serve humanity forever. Just spare some of us, one hive, one planet, anything. No, please. We are afraid. We don't want to die. Isn't that something you can understand? Hyunwoo thought about the millions of humans who had been afraid, who had begged for mercy, who had died anyway. You should have thought of that 3 years ago. The killing continued. The Galactic Council grew desperate. They sent more ambassadors. They offered to mediate peace. They even threatened to intervene militarily. But it was all empty words. No council species wanted to fight humanity, not after seeing what they could do. Some council members tried appealing to human morality. You're better than this, they said. Don't become the monsters you're fighting. Chancellor Minho responded publicly. We're not the monsters. We're the consequences. The Vex killed first. They chose extermination as a strategy. They lost, now they pay the price. If that makes us monsters, then the galaxy needs more monsters. On day 197, Marshal Youngsu found the Overmind's physical location. It was deep underground on Vex Prime, protected by millions of soldiers, surrounded by the strongest defenses the Vex had ever built. The Widowmakers assaulted the facility. The fighting was intense. In the tunnels, there was no room for ships or big weapons. Just soldiers against aliens, Blade against Claw, humanity's rage against the Vex's will to survive. It took 7 days to reach the Overmind's chamber. 7 days of constant combat. The Widowmakers lost 3,000 soldiers in those tunnels, but they kept pushing forward. Finally, Young-Su stood before the Overmind. It was enormous. A mass of neural tissue the size of a building, pulsing with psychic energy. It spoke directly into his mind. Why? It asked. We offered everything. Total surrender. Why won't you stop? Young-Su pulled out a picture. His wife's picture. The one he had buried on New Jeju. He had dug it up to carry with him. You killed my wife, he said simply. You killed millions like her. You never asked why. You just killed. So we're just killing. No more question. Please. Young-Su didn't let it finish. He placed charges around the Overmind's core. Then he and his soldiers retreated. The explosion was small, controlled, just enough to destroy the neural tissue. When the Overmind died, every Vexithorian felt it. 1.4 trillion organisms all felt their central intelligence vanish. They panicked. They scattered. Some tried to fight. Some tried to hide. Some just stood still, waiting for death. It came quickly. Over the next 6 months, humanity finished the job. They swept through the Vex home systems planet by planet, city by city, tunnel by tunnel. They used every weapon, every tactic, every ounce of rage they had built up over 3 years. Dr. Taehyun's weapons killed billions. Commander Jiwon's tactics killed billions more. Marshal Young-Su's soldiers killed everything they found. And Grand Admiral Hyunwoo coordinated it all with cold precision. On day 1247 of the war, the last Vexithorian died. It was killed by a human soldier on some forgotten moon. The soldier reported it casually.
Sector clear.
No more hostiles, that was it. The war was over. 4.2 trillion Vexithorians dead. Not a single one survived. Human casualties for the entire war totaled 2.1 billion, military and civilian combined. The kill ratio remained roughly 2,000 to 1 back on Earth. Grand Admiral Hyunwoo received the final reports. He read through them carefully. Then he sent a message to all human forces. The war is over. The Vexithorian species is extinct. Every soldier, every sailor, every person who contributed to this victory has my thanks. You faced impossible numbers and won. You showed the galaxy what humanity can do when we're pushed too far. Well done. He paused, then added one more line. New Jeju is avenged. All debts are paid in full. The celebrations across human space were massive. People danced in the streets. Ships fired their weapons in salute. The war that everyone said humanity would lose was won. Completely, totally, but not everyone celebrated. Marshal Young-Su stood alone on New Jeju at the memorial. 7.8 million names carved in stone. His wife's name among them. He placed his hand on the stone one last time.